So, you might have noticed that I changed my avatar. I think it looks nice, but it's more than just aesthetics. A lot has changed over the past several months. My opinions, my worldview, everything has drastically changed over time. You've probably noticed some of the very woke things that I have been saying in some of my newer videos. Especially the ones that have come out in the last few months. What makes this movement different is the fact that it's being led by the teenage victims of the shooting. The dishonest media has clearly taken advantage of these traumatized children to push their anti-gun agenda.
They had the Parkland shooter on their radar. They were tipped off multiple times about him. He made threatening posts online. He had a history of violence. He was fucking suspended for having ammunition in his locker. There was all these red flags, and the government did nothing. And then, while the shooter was killing 17 innocent people, they stood outside the school with their thumbs up their ass and did absolutely nothing.
Government says sacrifices sometimes should be made in the name of the greater good.
Fuck your greater good. Do not listen to people that say it's for the greater good. They are history's worst mass murderers.
Are a lot of people who use guns responsibly, the fun we get to have with them isn't worth the destruction they cause?
Exactly.
Well, fuck you. I have a right to own a gun, and you do not have the right to take that from me. And if you want to take that from me, bitch, please.
When the government needs to be overthrown, get your ass out and vote, cause we can't do this alone.
So your solution to government tyranny is to get out on your knees and lick Massa's feet and hope he doesn't whip you. Voting doesn't do shit, okay? A ballot box might as well be a paper shredder. The whole system is rigged. You do not choose your leader. And you guys are not on the side that's overthrowing the government. You guys are part of the establishment.
Of course. You're not gonna be young forever, Jimmy.
My name's not... Hold on, I already have a plan for retirement, okay? I don't need your help, whatever that is.
Nonsense, Jimmy. Everyone needs the government's help. Why else would we have one?
You can't refuse to pay into it. If you do, the government will send scary men with guns to come throw you in a cage. In a Ponzi scheme, you can call the authorities and get the con artists arrested. With Social Security, the con artists are the authorities. It's like a gang extorting money out of you, but you can't call the cops on them because they are the cops, so you're screwed.
I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. It's time I explained my beliefs. If you follow my Twitter, you probably already know this, but I haven't explained it in a video yet. If I lose subs over this, so be it. I'm going to be honest, and I'm not going to hide it anymore. I am now an anarchist, specifically an anarcho-capitalist. I have been for a few months now, but I haven't been open about it on my channel, mostly because I wasn't sure how people would react. There are a lot of misconceptions about anarchism perpetuated by the media, about how anarchy is chaos, and how it will lead to riots and rampant crime and mob rule. Look, anarchy isn't chaos. It's just a lack of government. Just because there isn't a government doesn't mean that the world will devolve into a Fallout game. People aren't animals that'll just go on killing sprees as soon as there is no government authority. In this video, I will explain how I got to this point, what anarcho-capitalism is, and what's to come in the future. When I first started my channel 2 years ago, I was still trying to figure out what I stood for. I knew what I was against, but I didn't really know what I was for. So, like a lot of people at the time, I defined myself by what I was against. I called myself an anti-SJW. I was against social justice. I still am, by the way, that hasn't changed. The problem with defining yourself by what you're against is it makes you seem like you don't stand for anything. You're just a contrarian. You're not arguing for anything, only against something. But if you have nothing better to offer, there's no point in having the argument. This is the problem the anti-SJW community faced. Some of them broke off and said, "We stand for classic liberal values," and defined themselves as liberalists and classical liberals. Some became conservatives, and some even joined the alt-right, sadly, but others stayed in the center and dubbed themselves centrists. Now, the problems with centrism probably deserve its own video, but I'll try to explain it briefly. Centrism is basically an embodiment of the middle ground fallacy. They sit in the middle and refuse to take a side and claim that this is somehow reasonable.
If you're an unreasonably reasonable person and want to make sick gains in the gym, pick up a Radical Centrist t-shirt at some Black Guy's Teespring store. Links in the description below.
I saw the problems with centrism and tried to distance myself from it. At the time, I was slightly more conservative and a Christian. Now, I think my religious journey deserves its own video, so I won't be going into greater detail about it here. But over time, I became disenfranchised with Christianity and eventually left the religion entirely. During this time, I became more and more libertarian. Where I used to use religion to justify laws on morality, I realized that people should be free to make their own decisions. I still believed in borders and was still a patriot at the time, but my skepticism of the government was growing. This was about the time that a friend of mine, Atomic ANCAP, who at the time was called Conservative Kid, became an anarcho-capitalist and started making videos about the ideology. I had never heard about this ideology before then, and was initially intrigued, but quickly rejected it, thinking that there were certain things that only the government could do, and we still needed a government for those things. And at the time, I was still a patriot. I still loved my country. I remained in this state for a while, libertarian, patriot, until about November of 2017. This was when my rapid change of opinion began. This change was triggered when I decided to look into some conspiracy theories, and I found that some of them were true. This drastically changed my perception of the US government. Finding out what they were willing to do to innocent people abroad, as well as their own citizens, made me sick to my stomach. After that, I could barely look at the Stars and Stripes the same way. And eventually, my patriotism died. Thus began my rapid descent into libertarianism. I found myself agreeing with ANCAPs on a lot more, but still believing that the government was a necessary evil for some things. I became a minarchist. Minarchism is a libertarian philosophy that advocates for a small, night watchman state that would fulfill the only services that the state is necessary for, including military and courts. Then, over the next few months, I binge-watched a bunch of ANCAP videos, and slowly over time, began to see that the government wasn't actually necessary for these services. I found myself using their arguments and arguments with lefties. Eventually, there was only one service, I believed, that only the government could provide. Courts. At this point, I was extremely bothered by how inconsistent my philosophy of minarchism was, and would think about it constantly. Eventually, I set out to see what the ANCAP solution to the court question was. The problem was, there wasn't a broad consensus on this question in the ANCAP community. But I eventually found a lecture by an ANCAP economist, Robert P. Murphy, which answered my questions about it. I was now convinced that there was nothing the state could do that the market couldn't also do, and do more efficiently. Not long after that, I became an ANCAP, but remained silent about it for a while. In the communities I was associating with at the time, ANCAPs were a sort of black sheep. Just about everyone in the community hated them. So I've been quiet about it until now. I'm not gonna hide it anymore. I'm an ANCAP, and I don't care who has a problem with it. If you can't handle a different opinion than your own, fuck off. I don't need to hear about it. This community has every brand of socialism. Unapologetic Christian and Muslim fundamentalists, monarchists, and literal fascists, some of whom unironically believe that Hitler did nothing wrong, and ANCAPs are the ones you can't handle. I'm sorry, but that's absolutely insane. Anarcho-capitalism is a libertarian philosophy that advocates for a completely free market, as well as the abolition of the state. We believe that the state is completely incompetent. They provide no service that can't also be provided more efficiently through charity or voluntary transactions. The state is an illegitimate monopoly on arbitration and is ultimately the biggest violator of human rights. It violates our rights by its very existence, since in order for it to exist, it has to violate our property rights. They violate your property rights through taxation. They take your property without your consent. If you think taxation isn't theft, just think about this. What happens if you refuse to pay taxes? They throw you in prison. What happens if you resist? They kill you. Every action the state takes is backed either by violence or the threat of violence. They force you, at gunpoint, to give over as much of your income as they want. If a private citizen did this, we would all recognize it as theft. Extortion. Theft doesn't suddenly become justified just because you're the government. It's wrong for us to steal from each other, but it's okay for them to steal from us? No, that is inconsistent. Because the state cannot exist without violating our rights, it is illegitimate. The state violates your civil liberties. Some states are worse at this than others, but they all do it to some extent. These are things you can't do without the state's permission. Get married, build a house, drive, drink alcohol, get a loan, buy a gun, collect rainwater, buy, sell, or use drugs, have a garage sale, open a business, kill yourself. The list goes on and on and on. Every one of those regulations is an infringement on your rights. You own yourself. You have dominion over your own body. You can do with it whatever you want. When the state makes laws violating your self-ownership, they are saying that you do not own yourself. And if you do not own yourself, you are a slave. Anyway, going forward, I will be making videos going more in depth into anarcho-capitalism. This video was more to explain what I believe and why I believe it. There are numerous issues to discuss in future videos. What about military, courts, roads, healthcare, etc., etc.? All really good questions, and all will be getting their own videos. In the future, I will be explaining more about the ideology, as well as making response videos, and just doing my normal thing. I've been considering starting a weekly live stream. I've talked about it before, and while I can't do it right now, I do want to do it in the future when I'm able to. I really like the idea. I've had fun on other live streams I've done on this channel, and in streams I've been in on other people's channels. It's something I'm really looking forward to, and as soon as I'm able to, I'm gonna do it. Another thing, I'm really considering changing my channel name. Let's be honest, That Jerk Online, kinda fucking cringy. I don't want people's first impressions of me to be that. I thought up that name when I was still watching Grade A Under A, whose video style was a big inspiration for me, obviously. At that time, I thought I was just gonna be another rant-style channel, but things quickly changed, and I think the name doesn't fit anymore. So, I think if any time's a good time to change my channel name, it's now, while I'm going through this transformation. Other than that, I'm gonna try to upload more frequently, and I don't know, I don't think there's anything else to say. I'll see y'all next time.